Hi, this is Chris Foreman from Madness, and you're listening to the Stateside Madness podcast.
Hi there, folks out there. I'd like you and me, Tommy McGuire in this combo.
Hello, and welcome to the Stateside Madness podcast, the one and only podcast of the official Madness American fan service. I'm Laurie, along with my co-host Polly, here to bring you news, reviews, and deep dives into the nutty sound of the British pop band Madness. Well, hello, and welcome to our very first live video podcast, Stateside Madness. I'm Laurie.
And I'm Polly.
Polly's our bartender today. And I'm embarrassed. I tried to lip sync to the introduction and I forgot my own words. Oh, but thank you everybody for joining us. So this is going out live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And we will be seeing your comments. And we also do have the ability to put some of your comments on the screen if you guys have anything really cool you want to contribute. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Happy New Year, Polly. This is our first.
Happy New Year to you. So we did take a little bit of time off. We hope everybody appreciated, or at least had a chance to listen to the Christmas playlist. That's kind of the last thing we put out, but now we're back at it and ready to talk about some Madness videos.
Yes. But before we do, those of you who listen to our podcast know we have a segment that we do called The Communicator. So shall we start that real quick?
I think we should.
I think we should. All right.
So first thing up, of course, it's our man, Nick Woodgate. His birthday was just recently, so we wanted to say a happy 60th, was it, to Nick?
Yeah, 60 on January 2nd. Happy birthday, Nick. So Nick,
Absolutely.
as you guys know, good friend to the podcast. His brother Woody is the drummer of Madness, and Nick, very talented musician and songwriter in his own right. He's co-written some songs for Madness. He's got a new album coming out, Polly. Did you hear about this?
That he does. So Nick is regularly sending us little snippets of what he's working on and, little previews. And I would strongly encourage everybody to go listen to the new album. The song that he's featuring off of it first is called The End.
A little
bit, but, that's our boy. But it's a fantastic song. He continues to do great work. He's really been making the most of this, sort of pandemic lockdown stuff. He's working all the time. So really, really happy to hear that Nick's got new music out.
So his new album is called Okay, and it's coming out on January 21st. And his work is available on bandcamp.com. So go check it out. Somebody else has a birthday coming up too, Polly.
Who would that be?
Chaz Smash.
No, that's right.
Yes.
What is he? Is he? Go ahead. I was going to guess.
Go ahead.
63.
All right. You're very good. Yeah, he's turning 63 on the 14th. So very, very happy birthday to Mr. Smash.
We're hoping, you never know, where this makes its way to Spain, and maybe he knows we said happy birthday. But nonetheless, we wish him the best.
Is that where he is? He's in Spain?
I do believe so, yeah.
Oh,
In Ibiza.
Okay.
Want to give a little bit of background on, the idea of the music video, particularly Madness music videos?
Before we do, we got one more item for the communicator.
What?
We wanted to give a shout out to 7raggedmen.com. Yeah, our Ian is the gentleman who runs that site, and he updated it recently. He's added some content from Stateside Madness, including our interview with Chrissy Boy, and also some of the content from our interview with Steve Martin, who was the band's manager. So big shout out to Seven Ragged Men. It's an awesome website, and thank you for the mention.
I'm the communicator. Let me tell you how I feel. I feel I'm scared.
All right. Hey, we got to give a shout out to Donald Troll. We see he's logged in. Donald is our webmaster for StatesideMadness.com and our blogger. So he writes a lot of really excellent content for the website. So shout out to you. And thanks to everybody else who's logging in. So yeah, let's talk about, this is our episode about Madness music videos. What do you know about Madness music videos, Polly?
Nothing at all. It's going to be a fairly boring live stream. No, so we'll have little bits of tidbits and stuff like that for all of it. But, let's kind of reset the clock back a little bit, early 80s. What were videos looking like back then?
Well, I grew up watching MTV. I am the MTV generation. Polly, I suspect you might be too. So August 1st, 1981 was the day that MTV first went on the air. And they opened with the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll." And when they started, they didn't have a lot of video content, even though it was supposed to be a 24-hour video music network. It seemed like they had maybe the same 12 or 15 videos constantly on rotation. There's like live footage of Styx. There was Journey. There, not that there's anything wrong with those bands, but you can't really make a 24-hour network with that. So they started looking at content from overseas, particularly British content, because the Brits had been making videos for a while for TV shows like Top of the Pops. So there was a lot of British content that they could very easily use on their network. And so this kind of led to what some music historians would call the second British invasion. Like I guess the Beatles and the Stones would have been the first British invasion, right? So this was like the second one. And actually, Polly, one of our Stateside Madness members, Megan Ojibwe, she's been on the episode before, or she's been on the episode. She was on our fan engagement episode. Sorry, I have cats fighting out of the corner of my eye here. I'm thinking about how I want to break this up. But no, Megan shared with us a couple of MTV promos that included our boys. And there's one in particular that I do want to show real quickly here because I think it's really cool. So this was a promo that aired on MTV. It was like a station identification, if you will.
Some people will go to any length to watch MTV music television.
So and another thing about the early music videos, everything that really predated MTV, with the exception of what Laurie was talking about with British television, Top of the Pops, and things like that. It was not uncommon for record company A&R men to have bands do videos that would then be sent out to radio stations of all places, and used as sort of promotional stuff to kind of get the wheels going, get the juices flowing for interest in some of these bands. So anybody, a good example might be of the Alice Cooper "I'm 18" video, which well precedes MTV. So that's the sort of stuff they sent out there to just kind of get people interested in the band, get people add a little context to go with along with the sound. So yeah, there you go. There's a tidbit. I ad-libbed, Laurie, for you.
Very good, thank you. And I managed to lure the cats into the other room. So as far as Madness videos are concerned, most early Madness videos were filmed on a shoestring budget, usually filmed by the band themselves. Most of them were directed by Dave Robinson of Stiff Records. One exception to that being One Step Beyond, which was directed by Chuck Statler, who's widely regarded as the godfather of music video. He did some early work for Devo, and I think that's how he came to the attention of the band. one way that they really kind of saved money is they scouted locations themselves, but then they also had not only themselves, but friends of the band in the videos. And so, like, for example, one place where we saw this was in the video for One Step Beyond. There's a number of friends of the band that are in this video.
Hey, you! Don't watch that! Watch this! This is the heavy, heavy monster sound! The nuttiest sound around! So if you're coming off the street and you're beginning to feel the heat, well, listen, Buster, you better start to move your feet to the rockinest, rock-steady beat of madness. One step beyond!
Okay, so that was One Step Beyond, which for many people in America was, well, for many people, period, was the first video that that they ever saw. It's the first proper video that Madness ever actually released. Polly, any thoughts on One Step Beyond on the video?
Well, you know, it's a classic. As we count down the top 10, I bet we're going to say that about every one. But you know, it's from humble beginnings. It's a simple concept for the video. You know, it established. Yeah, there we go. It establishes you know, Madness as that high energy band that we've all come to know and love. And yeah, I mean, it's a first great outing. I love it.
We had a couple comments as we were playing the video. So Donald was making fun of this. Was an episode of Beavis and Butthead where they were playing this, and Suggs, you know, being the lead singer, and Beavis and Butthead are like, so is he going to sing anything? And that's kind of how I felt when I was watching this at first. And then the other thing I got to say too, which is maybe a little bit embarrassing, is I thought that there were about 20 people in the band Madness when I saw this video, because I didn't realize that many of these guys in the video were not members of the band, right? So we saw Prince Nutty, we saw Farron, who was the guy in the bed. I was a little slow putting it on screen. We also had Chalky, who's a friend of the band, who was dancing, and then a guy named Tokes was standing behind him. So, and this is kind of how the band really operated, is really their fans, their friends were very heavily involved in a lot of this process. So that leads us to our top 10.
Here we go.
Here we go. So as promised, we're going to count down the top 10 videos that have been chosen by Stateside Madness listeners. I do want to talk a little bit about the methodology. This is where, college professor, right? So it was a completely unscientific methodology. We polled users on Twitter and on Facebook, and we asked them, what is your favorite Madness music video? And then I tallied the responses. So what you're going to see now are the top 10 Madness videos as chosen by Stateside Madness listeners. So Polly, want to get us started?
All right, at number 10, we've got Dripfed Fred. It bears the distinction as being the first video that the band didn't source out for a director, so they directed that themselves. And, you know, it was a bit of a labor of love, of course. They brought in Durry to, perform on the song and to be in the video. He was not well at that point. So you really see the band putting forth their best for the whole project. It was filmed at an atomic bunker across from Lee's mom's at a hospital in North London. Mike Barson's son Timothy is actually in the video. He's the little boy that you'll see there. The extras were all recruited from Madness fans, so that's a nice touch there. Lee's character, as you'll see in it, is a bit of a foreshadowing of what he would go on to do with his persona in Crunch, wearing the literal pancake makeup, maybe. I've heard that it was flour that he poured all over himself at one point. Somebody can check the veracity of that statement. I'm not quite so sure. And of course, you know, the scene towards the end of the video with them carrying out Ian Durry in a litter. A very nice touch and a bit of an homage and sort of, I would say, placing him in his rightful place, the austere place and worthy of all their respect. So let us go ahead and watch Dripfed Fred.
We want Freddie for a leader. Freddie is a man of class. We want Freddie for a leader.
All stand and raise your champagne glass. Gentlemen and assassins and ladies of the night, I call upon you this evening in the hope of shedding some light. I can't go into detail or finger unfounded fools, but there are some here amongst us that are not playing to the rules. I've rounded up the lowlife and local CID, offered a free massage or else the third degree. There is no simple solution in this life we lead, so make things easy for yourself to the baronage concede.
So that was so cool that they finally got the chance to work with Ian Durry, who's, as we know, one of their inspirations, I guess, to get into music. Polly, you and I did an entire episode about Ian Durry, and it was a really, really good episode. So I recommend to everybody out there, if you haven't already listened to it, listen to our Stateside Madness podcast episode about Ian Durry, because it's really cool. Thoughts about the video?
It's not really representative of you know, the work that they had done earlier in their career, save for you know, them acting a fool and doing the things they do pretty much in every video. It's a very clean, very professional looking video that they didn't have the resources to do, or probably even the knowledge back in the very early 80s. Every video looked like crap back then, really. But in this video, camera angles are really, really tight. Panning is really good. You know, there's even seems to be some consideration for, you know, color palette and backgrounds and things like that. So, you know, it's a classy looking video. But it just happens to have our seven guys, you know, acting foolish in it, which you'd want.
Well, you know, you make a very good point that, you know, you kind of learn by doing. And the band really kind of did all of their own videos for the most part, with a few exceptions. And so by this point in their career, they really were starting to get good at it. And much like a certain podcast that we know that has, you know, still has its hiccups from now and then, but we've kind of been learning as we're going too, and the quality is definitely increasing. I do think that video is notable for one other reason, and that's the only video I can think of that the boys have done that actually has a plot, that is kind of a narrative from beginning to end, where we have, you know, this murder that's, you know, and the vicar and everything else. I'm really glad that you mentioned Crunch, because, yeah, Tomo is really playing the same character that he played in It's Okay, I'm a Policeman by Crunch. So I urge our listeners to check that video out as well, and you'll see what we're talking about. Anything else on Dripfed Fred?
I don't think so. Let's move on to number 9.
All right. Well, number 9, as chosen by our listeners, it's one of my favorites. It Must Be Love.
I never thought I'd miss you half as much as I do. And I never thought I'd feel this way, the way I feel about you. As soon as I wake up, every night, every day, I know that it's you I need to take the blues away. It must be love, love, love.
Okay, so that was number 9 as chosen by our listeners. It Must Be Love. So lots of stuff to love in that video. So we've got the band members dressed in different costumes, right? We have I think it's Woody dressed as a bird and Lee as a bee. Bless you and bless me. Bless the bees and the birds. There's a really interesting story about the swimming pool scenes. So I guess originally the idea was Lee's. Lee wanted to like do a backflip into a pond, but then it ended up looking like crap. So they did it in the swimming pool. And then, Chris was not one to be outdone by Lee. So Chris said, okay, now I want to play the guitar in the pool. And I guess he kept floating up. So they actually had to put bricks in his pockets to weigh him down. And then the other story about that is because they really were on a shoestring budget, they used rented instruments. And when they got the guitar out of the water and they tried drying it off with a hairdryer, and I guess the neck of it became totally bent. But Dave Robinson still tried to return it to the store for a refund. That's how cheaply made things were. Polly, what do you think of It Must Be Love?
Well, it's one of their better directed, better produced videos. At least they appear to have done it on a soundstage. Camera quality is good. Nice to have the cameo from Labi Sifra there. And it's altogether good video. It shows they put some effort in. Chaz's Paul Stanley-esque heart-shaped makeup over his eye. A nice effort, but to me, he always came off looking like a pound puppy in a top hat with that.
I thought it was hot. I thought it was hot, but
we register different on the hot meter, I guess. But that's okay. No,
yeah.
A fine video, good effort, great song. It takes a lot to get me to like a love song. It's one of their better songs, one of their better videos. What's not to love?
Cool. All right. What's next on our list, Polly? Number 8?
Number 8's Cardiac Arrest. It's another Dave Robinson directed video, as many of these are going to be. So it's a bit of a literal take on the theme of the song. It's got Chaz as the sensible middle-aged businessman and the whole bit like that. And again, the band just hamming things up on a bus. So let's take a watch.
In the morning, bowler hat on head, walking to the bus stop, he's longing for his bed, waiting with his neighbours in the rush hour queue, got to get the first bus, so much for him to do, he's got to hurry, got to get his seat, can't miss his place, got to rest his feet, 10 more minutes till he gets there, the crossword's nearly done. It's getting so hard these days, not nearly so much fun. His mind wanders through the office, his telephone desk and chair. He's been happy with the company, they've treated him real fair.
Cardiac Arrest. Wow. So tell us about the video, Polly.
Well, a couple of, I don't know whether you call them glitchy things, maybe fortuitous, maybe kismet, but the scene with Carl coming out of the building, they actually had to pay like $50 to some homeowner to have a shot of Carl coming out of the front door. As they're going around on the bus, it seems that people mistook it for a real bus, and they actually ended up picking up a couple of passengers. So,
I heard that.
yeah. That's an interesting bit there.
Something else interesting too is I know that Chris Foreman had said that there's actually a second video of the band performing the song, but that never got used. So I'm very curious to see what that video would be, and if it's even still out there. I mean, it might be lost.
Yeah.
It might be lost.
Possibly, yeah. But it was them, getting their acting on, as it were, kind of. Maybe not all the band. Carl had said, it was his first real jab at acting, and it was good to see him in a little bit of a John Waters mustache there. So that was nice.
Yeah.
What do we have for number 7, Laurie?
Oh, well, number 7 is another favorite video for us at Stateside Madness. It's Nightboat to Cairo. Poor Better's at the end there, can't hold his liquor. The story is that right before they started filming this video, the boys had just received their gold record for Absolutely, and supposedly all of their rucksacks were completely filled with beer. So they had been celebrating when they filmed this, and I think that kind of adds to the charm of the video. Polly, what do you think of Nightboat to Cairo?
Oh, well, it's probably their most iconic video, maybe aside from Our House. They've gotten thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans to go out and buy red fezzes. I mean,
I have one.
Yeah, I have one too. It established a look for them. So, it's not many videos I think can claim that.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
it's laughably low budget, and again, I think that adds to the charm. It was filmed in a South London studio in front of a green screen, as you can obviously tell. Mike Barson has said that this was actually supposed to be a serious video. Yeah, how did that work out for you? But and that dog at the end, that's actually Dave Robinson from Stiff Records. That's his dog. Just kind of charged through the set, and they left it in. So, but yeah, for being so low budget, it is definitely a fan favorite, and one that I think has stood the test of time. So what's next, Polly?
So we've got One Better Day, break from Mr. Robinson. They have Nigel Dick directing this one. Let's take a look at One Better Day.
Arlington House, address no fixed abode. Old man in a three-piece suit sits in the road. He stares across the water. He sees right through the lock. That's on and up like outstretched hands. His mumbled words, his fumbled words.
My all-time favorite Madness song. So good. Polly, what do you think of that video?
Well, it's a fantastic video. Thematically, they really, really hit it on the head. There was a little bit of, the boys mucking about, but really, other than that, very concise, right to the point, almost seamless the whole way through. You might even call it artful. I really think it was a fantastic video.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned Nigel Dick. So he's he was an employee of Stiff Records. I don't know why I keep saying Stick Records. Stiff Records. The band wanted to release this song as a single, but Stiff Records knew that they were leaving, right? This is right around the time that their contract with Stiff was ending. So Stiff didn't want to pay for a video. So the band financed it themselves. They brought Nigel Dick in. And it was also the first time the band really wanted to do a more serious video. And reportedly, Nigel was just absolutely horrified because he thought, oh my gosh, you know, these guys, this is the Nutty Boys, and now they want to do something serious, and I'm going to be the one that's going to ruin it. You know, he was absolutely horrified. Mike Barson had also left the band by then, but they flew Mike in specifically for the video, and I'm glad that they did. I think he does add a nice touch to it. We saw the bag lady in the video is Suggs' wife, Anne, aka Betty Bright. We also saw a little cameo from Hector Walker, who worked for the band, Suggs' cousin. We did interview Hector in a previous episode. That was a really, really good episode. Hector is a friend of the podcast as well. Am I leaving anything out? Oh,
I don't believe so. Not so well. Okay, you got
actually, yes, I do have one other thing. So, that scene where Suggs was lying in the middle of the street with the blanket. Apparently, he looked so much like a street person that the police officer didn't recognize him and was giving him a hard time. And, you know, for lying down in the middle of the street, you know, come on, move along. Apparently, the officer didn't see the TV cameras either. But, oh, and then one other scene I do want to comment on. That scene where Lee is kind of coming down the escalator, you know, where he's lying on his back. Beautiful, beautiful shot. But man, I would not want to be the person lying on an escalator because I have seen, especially in subways, I have seen the kind of things that people do on escalators, and it's disgusting. So I would not want to be him, but you know what? It was worth it, I think, for the art. It was worth it for the shot because it was a really, really good shot.
That it was. And with that ought to bring us to number 5. What's at number 5, Laurie?
Number 5, as chosen by our listeners, is Love Struck.
Staggering home, the headlights throw a shadow up and upon friends and loved ones that have done no wrong, but no longer mean anything to me. Oh, am I mumbling on into a crystal glass that echoes a song? The enticement invites you along, a path of exterior color. But come the morning, shivering and contorting, to border on the brink, for just another Cinco, take me down for one more round. Oh, involve me in libations, stick a rock in my foundation, I pickle my relations, put me on probation, oh, I'll take you down.
Love Struck. What do you think, Polly? Any thoughts?
Well, like our friend Donald mentioned there, it's their great comeback song and video from the wonderful era. And I'd like to point out Chrissy Boy in his Ain't It Wonderful look, possibly the best look for our boy. No, a fantastic video. If we're going to rank it on quality, like we have with some of the others, it's right up there.
Yeah.
Definitely well produced. It's got everything you want in a Madness video. I like it.
Yeah. So it was shot in King's Cross. I particularly liked, so we had Mike as the devil on Suggs' one shoulder and Woody as the angel on the other. We had Lee as the worm in the bottom of the tequila. And then, of course, we had that whole hippie thing. Now, I think there was some very clever wordplay there. You know, love truck. Yeah. But other than that, I'm like, that seemed really out of place, the weird hippie dippy stuff. But you know, the song is an ode to getting so drunk that you're professing your love to a lamppost. And I think that the themes of the video really kind of bore that out. One thing worth mentioning too, Chris has said in a DVD commentary that the band had this saying, "It's your funny." And I guess he said they borrowed it from Monty Python. But the idea was if somebody came up with something clever or funny to do in a video, they're the one that had to do it. It's your funny. You have to do it. So I suspect that, some of the gags that we saw in that video with, the guys under the bed and the fighting scenes, right? We had Chaz and Chrissy fighting in the rain and stuff like that. I suspect if that holds true, that they were probably the ones that came up with that idea. And I'm rambling. Should we move on?
That's all right. We should, but the video actually reminded me something. I hadn't actually poured Suggs a beer, so bear with me 1 minute. And while I do this, maybe we could move on to what's next? Wings of a Dove.
Take time for your pleasure and laugh with love. Take the hand of another and sing for the wings of a dove. Whoa, whoa, for the wings of a dove. Whoa, whoa, for the wings of a dove. Look up at the rooftops when you're walking round. Don't think for a moment of looking down. Whoa, whoa, yeah.
Wings of a Dove. That was number 5? No, 4.
That was number 4.
Yeah.
We're getting down there.
Yeah. So that was filmed at Blackbush Airfield in Surrey. And we saw the Pentecostal choir, and I guess they all said a group prayer before they filmed the video, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So that van in the final sequence, I know that Dave Robinson purchased that footage. That was from a French TV commercial, and purchased it at very high expense because he wanted to use it for Tomorrow's Just Another Day, and they didn't use it for that video. So that entire video, that whole scene at the end, was pretty much created for that particular footage. And, with the boys in the van, and I don't know where that vulture came from, that stuffed vulture. That was a little nutty. And I cut you off. I apologize. What were you going to say?
No, that's okay. You finished my thought, as it were. Only one more note, really, on the video. John Mills received an award for art direction and editing on the video. So probably for including the van scene in it, the high-paced kind of frenetic cutting and editing of the song too, I would imagine. A lot of takes in that video. A lot of takes.
Yeah. Another thing about the video, I know you're ready to go on, Polly, but the steel drums. I love the steel drums in the plane, but that would not happen nowadays because they would never be able to get that through the metal detectors.
Unless it was their what's the word people are using for getting their pets on the plane? It's their emotional support.
Steel drums. Yeah, we'll have
Fair
to try.
enough.
We'll try that when we start going to our Madness tour dates, and we'll see if they'll let us do that.
We will.
Yeah. Okay. So
you first.
Me
What's
first.
number 3? What's
number 3? Number 3. Well, it is another one of my favorites. It's one that I saw on MTV all the time. That would be, as I'm pulling it up here, House of Fun.
Good morning, miss. Can I help you, son? 16 today, and up for fun. I'm a big boy now, or so they say. So if you'll serve, I'll be on my way. Box of balloons with a featherlight touch. Pack of party poppers that hop in the night. A toothbrush and hairspray, plastic wings, clay on a corner's edge, just walked in. Welcome to the house of fun. Now I've come of age. Welcome to the house of fun. Welcome to the lion's den. Temptation's on his way. Welcome to the house of
Such a good one. House of
That it
Fun.
is.
That roller coaster at the end, it reminds me, I don't know if you're familiar with Homestar Runner. It's an online web cartoon. and there was an amusement park, and there was a ride called the Bowels of Trogdor being the Burninator. And there was a ride that just went around and around in circles like that. And that's what that reminds me of. and maybe one of our listeners knows what I'm talking about.
Maybe. Betters was not a real fan of the roller coaster, as it turns out. I'm with you there, Mark. It would not be my thing. You can't get me on one of those. But the the amusement park in the video that was in Great Yarmouth. I believe Lee had some familial connection, or maybe friends of the family, that allowed the boys in to film in the park. So there you go. Making the best of what they can, being resourceful lads as they were. Laurie, do you have anything else about House of Fun?
Well, I know in the pharmacist shop, the girl behind the counter was actually very short, and Suggs is very tall. So they had to get her what they call an apple crate to stand on, so that she would kind of be above Suggs, because in the song he's supposed to be a 16-year-old kid. Chris has said that just about everything that they used or everything they filmed rather for this video got used. Nothing ended up on the cutting room floor, which might explain what is that part with the Mad Hatter and the three gremlins. I don't understand that. That's the only part I don't get.
I don't know that I do either, really.
Yeah. And the hairdresser scene, that was apparently a guy named Anastasi that the guys knew when they were first coming up. And Donald had thrown into chat that Chrissy Boy looks at home as a pharmacist. I think he looks really at home as a hairdresser. He had that whole kind of hairdresser vibe. I don't know. But I remember seeing this video as a kid when I was growing up on MTV, and I just loved when this video came on. Everything about it just seemed so cool. You know, these guys, they seem so cool. I wanted to go to an amusement park and hang out with these guys.
Yeah, it's probably them at their most natural. Maybe not, that they were unnatural in anything else. Maybe the most fitting. Maybe that's how I would phrase it better. But moving on, we've got something that fits them, I would say, the best probably of all. And it's the video of the best Madness song ever. It's Baggy Trousers.
Naughty boys in nasty schools, headmasters breaking all the rules, having fun and playing pool, smashing up the woodwork tools. All the teachers in the pub, passing round a ready rub, trying not to think of when the lunchtime bell will ring again. Oh, what fun we had, but did it really turn out bad? All I learned at school was how to bend, not break the rules. Oh, what fun we had, but at the time it seemed so bad, trying different ways to make a difference too. The headmaster's had enough today. All the kids have gone away, gone to fight with next to school. Every term that is the rule. Sits alone and bends his cane. Same old backsides again.
Baggy trousers.
Is there really anything better? I say no. So that was filmed at the Islip Street School in Camden Town. Sorry, my apologies. I happen to work in a town called Camden. Well, of course, the section of London is Camden Town. My apologies. I get confused easily. You'll see somebody, actually, I guess we had pointed out Chaz's rubber hand in that. You have to look close, but it is there. And of course, the very iconic scene, now reproduced many, many times in many different types of media, of Lee on the wire, flying around the schoolyard. It's a great visual. It adds something to what would have otherwise been the band standing in a playground and not doing much more than the lip syncing. It's a great distraction to see him floating through the background. And, they were very, very smart in the directing of the video to include so much footage of the kids on the playground and in the school. Because thematically, it would have been very, very hard to have a bunch of young men in their 20s trying to convey the entirety of the message of what it's like to be kids roughhousing in school. So that was a great, great element of the video. Laurie, what else you got about baggy trousers?
Well, I know that whole thing with Lee up on the wire on the crane, that was actually inspired by a Peter Gabriel concert. I guess Lee and I think Chris went to see Peter Gabriel, and Peter did this thing, being larger than life at the time, where he was going up over the crowd on a wire, and that's where the inspiration came from. Chris also said that he thought that they left Tomo up there for a while and went to the pub. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he said. Yeah, great, iconic video, absolutely. And that leaves us, as Maria pointed out in chat, that leaves us with one song to go. We already have some people that are guessing in the in the comments.
It's not The Sweetest Girl. I'm sorry about that. It didn't make the top 10. I've got no idea. I can't imagine really what it might be.
Well, let's find out.
Okay.
Father wears his Sunday best. Mother's tired, she needs a rest. The kids are playing up downstairs. Sister's sighing in her sleep. Brother's got a date to keep, he can't hang around. Our house in the middle of our street. Our house in the middle of our house. It has a...
Here we go. Our House was the #1 video chosen by Stateside Madness listeners. So many things to say about Our House. Holly, I see you got your beer there, so I'll
Suggs wasn't drinking his beer, so
you got to drink it for him. I gotcha.
It's not like our boy.
Yeah. So we saw at the very beginning there, I don't know if anybody noticed it, the little intro before the video, we actually had Hector Walker again. So Hector, again, friend of the podcast, Suggs' cousin, former employee of the band. And he's the one, when Chaz is saying at the beginning, have you seen Our House? Hector points and says, yeah, it's over there, mate. That's Hector Walker. Most of the exterior shots were filmed on Station Road in London. The interior shots were shot in a mansion that was owned by a Playboy Casinos executive. And apparently it was the first jacuzzi in England. I don't know how true that is, but interesting if it's true. What else you got?
Not a lot. I mean, there's no doubt it's very meaningful to every Madness fan, but American Madness fans in particular. It's very likely the first video of the band that many American fans saw. And, it's not lost on me that there's a very Monty Python esque vibe there. Monty Python was resurgent again in the United States at about that time. And I mean, it's fantastic. It's one we've all come to know and love. I really, really am a fan of Chris's guitar solo in the song. Chris is not, the band, I would say, I suppose, doesn't do the patent formula of a guitar solo in every song. Chris doesn't have a great deal of them. And if you remember from our interviewing him at one point, he had said, if I didn't put a guitar solo in there, Lee was just going to play another sax solo. So I felt I had to do something. And of course, in the video, he pays homage to a few different periods that would have influenced him or kids his age in general, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s glam rock, which I'm going to go ahead and take a stab and say that he's paying tribute to Slade's Dave Hill. And we know that he is a fan of Slade and has mentioned before that Dave Hill, his fondness for Dave Hill's guitar playing style. So that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. And you might remember, Polly, when we interviewed Chris, I confessed to him when I was a kid watching this video, I didn't realize that all three of those periods in the guitar solo were him. I thought they were three different people. So he kind of had a little bit of a laugh at my expense, and he's like, "Oh, it's just costumes, isn't it?" But you know, I mean, come on. I mean, I was young. I didn't know any better. And that video was just such a formative part of my childhood. You just really have no idea. My siblings and I, we used to act out scenes from the video, like the kind of the Flintstones looking scene where Lee as the mom gets locked out and is pounding on the door. And we perfected that salt shaker slide across the table. We practiced it so much. We had to get it just right, you know? So, I mean, this video is very, very close to my heart. I did not make the connection though, until I was watching Chaz's commentary. There's one scene where he's dancing a little bit weird, and he's actually channeling Kevin Rowland from Dexy's Midnight Runners and kind of doing the same dance that Kevin did on the Young Ones. So he even kind of says he's paying homage to Kevin there. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, for American Madness fans, I mean, that's the one song that everybody knows. If I'm wearing a Madness shirt or a Madness pin or something, and somebody says Madness, what's Madness? And I just start humming Our House. Oh yeah, you know, every American knows the song Our House. That is Madness. So that was the top 10 as chosen by our listeners. Now, Polly and I also chose a couple other videos that maybe weren't included in our top 10, but are our personal favorites. So, Polly, do you want to tell us what one of your favorites that was not on the countdown was?
Sure. So I thought NW5 bared mention. You know, one just being, probably one of the more prominent songs on Liberty of Norton Folgate. But it's a great concept for the video.
And though you have become a burden, one thing remains, that's for certain. I will love you all my life, but without you in my life.
They use footage from the Darren Wixer movie. And it's a classy video all the way around, and a fairly important song in their catalog too, I would say. So I definitely wanted to make sure it was noted, although it's not necessarily well known, particularly probably for American fans.
I do love the video for NW5 too. It's got just a good energy to it, just watching it. There's one scene in the video that they have up on the screen, Lee in a tutu. And that is actually from another video. That is from, I believe it's from the video for Sorry, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But no, that was a good choice, Polly. That was a really, really good choice in W5. So one that I was kind of disappointed was not in the top 10 was the video for The Sun and the Rain. So again, a lot going on here in the video, but the part that I love the most is I think the fan involvement at the end, where they really just got a group of fans together and they're all singing in the rain together. And I love that. I've often said that once I figure out the secret to time travel, I'm going to travel back in time and I'm going to be in the crowd in that video. So every once in a while, I'll watch it. I'll watch it every once in a while just to see if I suddenly appear in the crowd, because then I'll know that I figured out the secret of time travel. But no, there's other cool stuff in that video too. You know, we have Lee with the rocket strapped to his back, which was Fireball XL5, right? Which was the B-side of the single, I believe. I'm trying to think what else is going on in the video. So we have, for a while, we're looking into Suggs's head, right? We see what's going on inside his head. I don't know. You got anything else on The Sun in the Ring?
No, I think it's a fantastic video. Probably more noteworthy just for the great song it is itself. I really think it's up there in the pantheon of great Madness songs.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's got that sound. It's got the vibe. It's definitely Hallmark Madness, but poignant as well. So yeah, I think it's really up there as one of their best works. So there's nothing to not like about the video because of that.
Cool. So what was your second video that you chose that was not in our top 10?
So I picked Dust Devil. Again, I thought Norton Folgate really needed, you know, more representation, because at the time, this is really the band post-reunion, and really kind of on the top of their game and one of their most important albums. And Dust Devil, there's not a lot to not like about that. It's got Alfie Allen in it, Lily Allen's brother, and of course Reek from Game of Thrones. It's got Jamie Winstone in it, who is the daughter of Ray Winstone, and it's a very modern but also very nostalgic video of just two young kids, you know, finding, you know, discovering each other. I don't know how to phrase that. Sounds weirder than it needs to, but you know, the sort of the initial, probably falling in love part of the romance, and them running around like lunatics, and that's the entirety of the video. It features a lot of the GoPro style POV perspective sort of camera stuff. You know, after decades of people working on developing the Steadicam, at about that time, people just started putting a camera on anything, and if it shakes and it spins and you can't focus, whatever. And that's kind of a bit of the style of the video. So in that respect, it was a bit different for the time, certainly very different in terms of a Madness video. It's not the band, it's those two kids.
Would you believe that I've never actually seen the video that you're talking about?
What the
I'm probably gonna bleep that. I know the song from The Liberty of Norton Folgate, the film. And that's what I thought that you were referring to. So now what you're describing, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go and I'm going to watch it it's hopefully on YouTube. I'm going to go watch it.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it. Go take a look.
All right. Well, the last video for me that I think is notable was Waiting for the Ghost Train.
Chested man, a pocket full of posies with a hat brim full of sand. Ooh, waiting for the train that never comes. A dog chasing the tumbleweeds across the sandy floor. A drift along the platform through the ticket office store. Ooh, waiting for the train that never comes.
So this one was directed by John Mills, and people will remember it, I think, probably for the suits that the band's wearing, right? They're wearing these suits that are covered with headlines from South Africa, because the song is about apartheid in South Africa. It's also kind of a bittersweet video because it really was the band's farewell. This was 86. This was when they were breaking up, and they knew they were breaking up. And I see you're getting a little teary-eyed there, Polly. It's okay. It's all right.
I'm falling asleep.
Oh, but there's a few other things that are going on there in the video. There's a cameo from John Hassler at the very end, which I thought was very appropriate, since he was one of the original members of the band and then the band's first manager. So he kind of, introduced the band in the very beginning of their career, and now here it is, and they're ending, and now here's John Hassler again, kind of bookending that part of their career very nicely. There's also a bit with Lee jumping out of a plane. And, at first when I saw this, I thought this can't actually be Lee. I thought that this has to be a stunt person. The part where you can tell he actually is jumping out of a plane, because then there's a part later where it's very clearly green screen. But I did a little bit of digging, and I found out that Lee actually had been parachuting, and he was really pushing the band to include something about them jumping out of planes. And I guess for Wings of a Dove, that's kind of what he had wanted to do, and instead they went with the van idea. So I don't know for a fact, but I'm 95% certain that actually is Lee jumping out of that plane, because that was something that he was into around that time.
Yeah, I think it is.
Is it? And you can tell. Have you ever been parachuting, Polly?
Oh, there's no way I'll do that. No.
Oh, I did it. I loved it. Now, I did a tandem jump. I didn't do a solo jump like Lee did, but you can kind of tell he's got the toy saxophone and he's trying to play it. But I think the updraft and all the wind and stuff like that, it just kind of pulls his arms away from him and he can't keep it up. So I think that's probably why they then did the green screen of him playing. But oh yeah, I only did it once, but oh my gosh, it was amazing. And my poor grandmother was a nervous wreck at home until I called her to let her know that I was safely on the ground. I guess she had her rosary beads out and she'd been praying until I actually called her. But it was pretty amazing, and I love the video. Finally, we have also in the video, there's another dog, right? There was that dog in Nightboat to Cairo. Well, the dog in this video is actually Lee's dog. So and I'm talking too much. So what do you think of Waiting for the Ghost Train? Anything?
Well, it's one of my favorite singles, individual standalone works that they've ever done, really. I love it for being a great standalone piece for Madness. I love that they managed to pull it off when pretty much all was said and done at that point. They knew they were breaking up. And yet they went ahead and did a very meaningful, very heartfelt piece of music. Now, if they had done that meaningful, heartfelt music and it sucked, I wouldn't be here talking about it. Neither would you probably. But it's just a fantastic song. It's really, really great. And visually, the video works so well. I couldn't be more happy with it. I mean, it's a fantastic video.
Something else worth noting about the video too, at the very beginning, there's Chaz in a wig, and I didn't realize, being an American, but apparently there's a television test pattern in Britain, and there's this test pattern girl, and that's what she looks like, where, they just kind of reproduced that. I mean, I over here, the test pattern that I'm accustomed to was the Native American, the Indian head,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
And this was kind of their equivalent of that. But, I gotta say, Chaz is kind of hot in that wig. I'm just saying.
You seem to have a lot of reasons why Chaz is hot, but yeah. So and I forget what they call it, what they refer to as tic-tac-toe. What we call tic-tac-toe is crosses and some other friggin' thing. But yeah, that little strange test pattern in that woman usually has like a puppet or something with her, I think. Yeah, that's a weird thing. So yeah, another sort of like almost like a little a bonus Easter egg sort of thing in the video, which I like. I like to see people do more of that.
All right. Well, so that's it for the 4 videos that Polly, you and I would have liked to see added to the top 10. I don't necessarily agree with the way everything was ranked, but again, this was our listeners that came up with it.
True. It's not about us. It's for all of Stateside Madness.
Right. But if our house, Baggy Trousers and House of Fun hadn't been in there, I think we would have all called foul.
That's right. We wouldn't have done the episode.
Yeah. So we have some additional bonus content for our listeners, right? This was also not in the video podcast. Polly, tell us about what we're about to listen to with your interview.
Okay. So people familiar with the Madness sphere, the Madness universe, are probably already familiar with the Specialized Project. If you're not familiar with the Specialized Project, they've been putting out a lot of ska and reggae centric music, all based around the project of doing it, based around the idea of doing it for charity. So they've drawn in a lot of people. Everybody does their thing. They put out some CDs and some albums. It's just fantastic stuff. Everybody gets very excited when they hear something's coming out. So during the course of the pandemic, when people were stuck at home, the Specialized Project kind of got a group of people together called the Lockdown Allstars. Now, I'm not going to hint too much at who's in it, but our friend, Gary Scurfield, Mr. Scurf, if you're familiar, he is a big part of that. And I talked to him earlier on today. It would have been 5 o'clock in the morning for you, Laurie, so that's why I did it solo.
Okay. Thank you.
So you're welcome. So he's going to lay out everything about the production of the song, how it came about, all the players, and a little bit about the video as well. So when we end today, we're going to be listening to the Lockdown Allstars in their cover of the Queen classic, I Want to Break Free.
And of course, there's one Madness member on this project too, right?
Don't give it away.
All right. All right.
If you can, watch the video, and we'll have everything explained by our friend, Mr. Scurf.
All right. So before we play this great interview that you've done, let's give our listeners a hint for what we're going to do in 2 weeks.
So in 2 weeks, we are going to be doing Madness at the Movies, and Laurie explained a little bit just what's at the heart of that.
All right, so we're doing some research into notable instances where Madness songs have been used in Hollywood movies. Some of them are probably pretty well known, and some of them are maybe a little bit more obscure. And we're going to talk about those films and how these songs were used. And Polly, I've already given you a little bit of homework. I know I sent you a DVD. Now we'll talk about what became of that DVD when we do the episode, but so that should be a really interesting episode because there have been a number of movies where Madness songs have played a role, so that should be a good episode. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. So January 23rd, something like that, 24th. 23rd.
Well, you'll have to refer to it in the Chris Coiffian calendar, or I can't make any sense of it.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be still in lockdown, Chris.
Sure. We'll add a new era. Fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode, Laurie.
Yes, it does. All right. Well, listen to the interview, and then we'll see you in 2 weeks.
There we go. Thanks so much.
All right. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye for me. Go get a beer, Stateside Madness.
After you listen to the interview.
After you listen to the interview. All right, Stateside Madness, and we are here with Mr. Scurf. And Mr. Scurf's
Hello, Stateside Madness. How are
you? He's going to talk a little bit about the Lockdown Allstars, the video they've made, and we're going to be presenting it here to end off our episode. So if you would, Mr. Scurf, please do tell our folks how you got involved.
We're going to take the US. We're going to take the USA by storm here. Yeah. Hello. Just a brief introduction, anyway. So I know there are listeners in the States who tune in on a Wednesday night, whatever time it is in your part of the world, God knows. But firstly, thank you all you guys for tuning in. I've been doing radio for about 10 years now on a community radio station up here in the northeast of England, right on the coast, called Koast Radio. So we broadcast over an area of about 500,000 population. So we've got quite a good reach. And I'll come on to the project very soon. But radio is exciting. It's really good. And I've been doing a Wednesday night show for donkey's years called Mr. Scurf's Coast Trend. Basically, it's all themed around ska, reggae, two-tone, punk, and the rest of it's just random nonsense and me gibbering on about nothing. But it's always a laugh and we have a good time. But Lockdown Allstars, yes, what a project this has been. It's been an absolute pleasure dealing with this. Yeah, Mr. Willow, who is the founder of Specialized Project and lead singer with the Scapones, has been a great friend of mine for many, many years, since I probably attended their first ever gig many years ago in the Newcastle area. And I've done little bits here and there to help him promote Specialized Project, which is a project which raises money for Teenage Cancer Trust and youth music projects and some other charitable organizations. Now, over the last 10 years, they've been producing an album every year. They started off with a cover version album of specials tracks. And basically what it is, they put the word out, and lots of bands from around the UK, around the world, as far as Mexico and all over the place, do cover versions of specific bands or themes and send them over to a Specialized Project, and they create an album. And that's about the top and bottom of it. And yeah, Mr. Willow got in touch with me last January to say, look, Scurf, we're going to be putting the theme out for the next Specialized album very soon, and we're going to be calling it Viva Songs of Freedom. So he says, could you start putting the word out to your associates, people you know in the music world, to see if any of them want to contribute towards the album? And during the conversation, I says to Paul, I says, look, I says, we're pretty much locked down at the minute. I said, I've had a bit of an idea. The cogs in the head were going round and around, you see. I said, why don't I pull something together with a radio station and try and pull a few people in and do a cover version ourselves and see how we go. He says, well, if you can do that and do a decent MP3, decent track, he says, we'll have it on the album, absolutely no problem. I thought, champ, here we go. Let's have some fun with this. So I spoke to my producer that night and he said, you're mad. And I said, well, there we go. But few conversations. We've got some musicians at Koast Radio, so I had a chat with some of them. Says, we can do it. We can do it all remotely. It isn't a problem. I've got a colleague of mine, the radio station says, I've got a studio. We can use that to put down vocals, whatever we need to do. If you need any help with mixing or, you know, producing the track, I can do that. I says, wait. I says, I've done it. I've actually recorded a single before for the England football team. It wasn't an official song, but I worked with a producer down in Cornwall, down the south of London, called Andy Keys Clark. He's an excellent producer. He produces his own music. He's worked with lots of different bands. So I gave Andy a call and run the idea past him, and he says, you give me 2 weeks and I'll have you like a bedding track, what's called a bedding track, which is like a bass track of the song. So he took away Queen's version of I Want to Break Free. And he broke it right down and created like a bit of a ska riff that runs along the bottom of it. And sent that back up. And now listen to it. I thought, that's phenomenal. I says, I even know, just by listening to what he's done, I know where the vocals kick in. So I went away with Jason, one of our other volunteers. He's a musician, very famous in Sweden and Switzerland, but not so famous in the UK. Weird, but it is what it is. So I went to his studio, and we wrote all the lyrics down on paper so we could follow them, and we recorded a couple of what we call guide tracks, just to help us build the track up bit by bit. So we did that, and we mixed it when we were there and listened to it back. Effing hell, we've done a brilliant job. It just actually sounds good. So, well, you know what? Let's go with that. Let's keep the bass track and the vocal track separate and send that all back down to Andy. And so we sent that back down to Andy Keys-Clark, and he says, "Can we use that vocal?" I says, "Well, it's my voice. If you want to, you know, Jason put a bit on as well." He says, "Yeah," he says, "it works absolutely perfect. We'll use it." So suddenly I become the vocalist for the band. So that was mixed in. And then I often have chats with Mr. Chris Foreman, who's a guitarist of the Madness. He's been a friend of mine for, God, years and years. I've known his family for years and years, and he's got family up here in the Northeast who I know really well. And so I rings Chris, and we were having a chat. And I got talking about, we were talking about lockdown in the band and how he's feeling and things like that, and what he's been up to. And we did some interviews on the radio, just so he could tell everyone how bored he was sitting in his greenhouse in the garden trying to grow vegetables. And, I suggested to him that, would you be available to help us out with this project? He says, "Well, what do you want us to do?" I says, "Well, if I send you a bass track with some vocal mixed in, would you be able to have a go at putting a layer of guitar down to it?" Yeah, straight away. "Yes, absolutely, Scurf, not a problem. I'll do anything to help you out." So I sent it down, and there we go, Chrissy Boy Foreman out in Madness. And I'm thinking, mind blown, you know, brilliant. So that came back. The guitar track came back, sent it off to the producer, mixed it all in. He says, "We've got it first time." Yeah, he says, "That's absolutely perfect." So we followed that up with we'd had a conversation with Jim Patterson from Dexy's Midnight Runners by then, because we decided we might try and add a bit of brass into it, just to bolster the track out, to give it a bit of meat. And Jim Patterson famously wrote the track "Come On Eileen" with Kevin Rowland, very famous Dexy's Midnight Runners song. And I've performed with Jim before in the past, so he knows me. He was in a band called Yarang Matang. And I remember I once got up and did some Buzzcocks tracks with him, did some vocals on at a festival up here in the Northeast. So Jim actually went away and put some trombone down for the track and sent that off, and came back down to us, mixed it into the track. And Andy Keys-Clark was getting a bit excited by now. He says, "We're actually producing something here which is sounding top quality." Again, mind blown. So Andy says, "Do you know anybody who could potentially add some further brass to the track, just so we could basically create a virtual brass section?" So I spoke to a lad called Bobby Blanco, who's from I think he's from the Royal Queen's, the Royal Queen's performing, wherever, you know, they've got their band. And he serves in the armed forces. I think I might be wrong on that bit, but he's also does session musician work. He's done a bit of work with AK, the Syndicate down south, but he more regularly plays with a band called The Launchers, who many people who've been to the House of Fun Weekenders will have seen The Launchers performing live. Phenomenal band, really good. So I spoke to Bobby and explained the project. And again, he says, "I've got nothing to do." He says, "Send it down and I'll record some trumpet to put over the top." And he came back. He says, "Scurf." I says, "What?" He says, "Dave Roy Smith out the band." I says, "Yeah." "He plays saxophone." "Yeah." He says, "Can I come along and play with us as well? Can we record the sax?" I says, "Fill your boots." I says, "That is brilliant." I said, so that all came back, and before you knew it, we had a full brass section mixed into the track. And it just built from there. We had some further vocal from another couple of volunteers at Koast Radio, just to pad the vocals out a bit. And then one of our volunteers is a lad called Richie. He's also known as Blind Man B. And he does rap. He's a rap artist. And he's blind, or nearly 100% blind. Suffers from an illness called retinal pigmentosa or something. But so we got him involved, and we got him into the studio and gave him the track, and he just freestyled it, unprepared, just freestyled the rap. So when you listen to the track, you'll hear there's probably a middle late section where Blind Man B kicks in and does a bit of a rap. That was just off the cuff, one take. That's all it was, one take, and he blew it away. Absolutely superb. So all of it was all Andy Keys Clark was mixing it all together and doing his jiggery pokery, and then sent it back to us, and we had a listen. Chrissy Boy had a listen, and we thought, you know what it is, we've got it here. It's done. It's absolutely superb. I love it. Absolutely love the track. And and my producer Mark added a bit comedy on the end. You'll hear that bit when you listen to the video when I get blown up. I had to get sick of me vocals and me dressed up as a woman pushing a hoover around, so I decided I'm better off with 10 ton of dynamite shoved up somewhere. So that was it. And it came back and we sent it off to Paul Willow at Specialized Project, and he just came back and he says, how the F have you managed to pull that together? And that was his word. And I said, what, you not like it? And he says, not like, he says, that is absolutely unbelievable. He said, number one, how have you managed to get all of these people involved? And number two, how have you managed to coordinate with all these people such a brilliant track? He says, it's going straight on the album, mate. He says, we want that on. So that was it. And then we had a subsequent conversation with Andy Keys Clark. He says, Scurf, I says, what? He says, I've got an animator works with me who does cartooning and bits of videos and stuff like that. He suggested that we do a music video. So the same happened. We're starting to do all that remotely, involving everybody. And they all did their little bits at home. I've worked with a company up here called Look Productions for many years, who've done video work for businesses, for TV and Sky TV. And I spoke to Jimmy from there, and he says, right, I'll come down to the studio next Wednesday when you're on air. He says, just do what you want. Bring your stuff in. We'll do some video takes. So that's where we did our bits at the studio, a bit outside the studio, myself, Blind Man B, producer Mark, and everybody else just did theirs in their own free time, in their own space. You'll see that Chrissy Boy from Madness is up in the Magic Loft, where he got dressed up in his stage gear with his guitar. So he did his bit in his loft and sent that up to me. And Jim Patterson in his garden up there in Aberdeen, looking over the hills of his trombone. That's brilliant as well. So that's the story of the video. That's not, I'm not going to spoil it for you because I know you're going to see it. So any questions, Polly? I think I've probably filled quite a bit there.
I think you did fine, Scurf.
Buy it. Buy the album. Specialized Project. There you go. 20 quid. And it's all for charity. There you go. And we're somewhere in that list somewhere. But well done to all the bands, by the way, who've contributed towards this album. You've done a great thing. So there we go.
Absolutely, yes. And the Specialized Project does a lot of great work. And I would encourage everybody to purchase the CD. Well, Scurf, thank you so much. We are going to load up that video, and a job well done. It must have been quite intrepid, the idea of covering a Queen song.
Well, it's covering a Queen song, especially one written by John Deacon.
Yes.
I think I was introduced to Queen by my father, as many people of my tender age, I'm in my late 40s now. Their parents or dad were probably big Queen fans. He would have been introduced to, everybody knows I Want to Break Free. Everyone knows the words, everyone knows the video, very famous. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Polly, absolute pleasure doing this. I'm so privileged as well and very lucky to have been involved in it. So there we go, very proud of it.
watch you break free. I watch you break free from your life. You're so self-satisfied. I don't need you. I got you break free. God knows I watch you break free. I'm falling in love. I'm falling in love for the first time. This time I know it's for real. I'm falling in love. God knows I'm falling in love. It's true, it's true. Hey, I can't get over the way you love me like you do. But I have to be sure when I walk out the door. Oh, I want to be free. Oh, I want to be free. But life still goes on. I can't get used to living without you by my side. I don't want to live alone. God knows I got to make me on fire. Cause I'm free to do what I want anytime. And I'm free to be who I choose anytime.
Yo, since you gotta be free, do what you want to. Negativity, now don't let it haunt you. Grab the light tonight and fight for through. It's the hype inside, come on crew. Gotta be free, break those chains. Can't live life more in pain. No matter whatever the weather, the storm, whether we will do it together, no pain.